Since we have a quorum, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. And since we don't have a secretary, I'll go ahead and do roll call. Trustee Shaul.
Here.
Trustee Reidy.
Here.
Trustee Kearney. And Trustee Friedeman is also here. Okay, we'll go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Hopefully Brian can join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So are there any additions or corrections to the agenda as published for tonight? Okay. Hearing none. Any members of the public to address the board? I see none in person. Are there any on our Zoom or attending virtual?
Can I ask you to say something again to make sure?
Jamie, can you say something one more time?
I'm here.
Okay,
Yes,
there we go.
Yes, indeed you are.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay, and I don't believe there's anyone else on this Zoom.
There was not.
There wasn't. No. Okay. Excellent. So next up is the consent agenda, which includes 2 sets of minutes from the board meeting last month, June 17th, and then the committee of the whole meeting on July 1st of this month. If there is someone who would like to move to approve the consent agenda.
So there was a misspelling of your name, Sally, in the minutes. I don't know if you've got a document, you can update it, correct it.
See.
That's all me, actually. I will find it and fix it.
Is it last name?
I thought so.
It's 2 L's, right?
2 L's, but Friedeman is the tricky
Oh, yeah, right.
extra E. I don't,
Maybe it's.
yeah, I don't see one.
It's all right.
Oh, I found it.
Did you?
It's on the committee of the whole and it's under call to order. And it says President Friedeman.
There you go.
Excellent.
Good thing that I didn't even catch that.
Friend to all.
I'll just adopt that instead. Okay, thank you. I didn't even see that. Okay, so motion for the consent agenda with the name correction in the committee of the whole meeting. So we'll look for a motion again.
So moved as amended.
Okay, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Kathleen. All right. Next up is our library director updates, which were included in the packet. So thank you, Natalie, for such a thorough overview. Is there anything you'd like to highlight from this month or this past months?
So we've been working really hard on the facility. We actually had our roof inspection and said that we were working with Olson Roofing. They came out, they did our roof inspection. What Olson does is they will go up on the roof, they take photos, they do any minor repairs that need to be done. In our case, it was just cleaning out the gutters. So they do before and afters of any minor repairs that they do or any services that they do like that, and they will come every year. They decided that our roof is in good enough condition that they don't need to do it twice a year, which is lovely. We are rated at a 2 out of 5, 1 being the best. 5, we don't want to get to 5. And they are planning on coming back next year, which I am absolutely thrilled with. So we have them on a regular rotation. We did start with any book displays, any material shelving or chairs or whatever it happens to be that we're looking at disposing of in the future. Like I got rid of a small filing cabinet that was in my office. We are offering those to local organizations before we start offering them to the library and library world in general. So this time the Lake Bluff Middle School came and they picked up the 2 display racks that used to have our book sale books on them. we couldn't accommodate those anymore since we changed things around. And we have a much nicer area for the book sale books, and they are able to use them. So we are very, very excited with this. We're hoping that we can build up a group of people that will post items that they are trying to repurpose or donate or give away in the future.
Were there any questions from trustees regarding the director's report? I think my son is the one who does 10 for the jar challenge and he's very nice. Him a couple times if he was sure about that. Okay. Excellent. Any other notes, Natalie, that you wanted to highlight?
I think not at this time.
And then any trustee questions or reflections on the statistics, so the charts that are included?
I do not.
The only thing I noticed was like a huge spike in the novelist AA usage, which was significant.
We did start advertising that and we have seen a really good response. So I am very excited about that. We are working on, Jillian's been doing a great job of trying to advertise some of the databases that we haven't seen a huge amount of usage. To see if we can get those moving.
Awesome.
And again, just a reminder, the annual circulation is based on calendar year. There isn't really a way for me to change that.
But it looks like on track with 2025 being halfway through the year,
Yes.
pretty equal to 2024 in terms of circulation. Okay. And any notes that you want to add on heat map, Natalie, or visit counts that were of note?
You will notice a lot fewer dates filled in from, my keeping count while I am at my desk, because this past few weeks I've been up and around at the conference and gone and everything else. So I apologize if there are fewer of those. Other than that, I think the heat map is really well done. And again, a reminder that unfortunately, the colors are not necessarily always the same in every single one. So please pay attention to that when you're looking at things.
Yeah, like a Friday morning bump.
So a quick question, what, for the month of June 2025, Wednesday at 9 p.m. is an average of 6 for all the Wednesdays?
Do you have the cleaning crew coming through?
The night.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have
every
a few
other-
things that get thrown
Yeah.
off like that.
It popped because the shade changed, whereas all the others where it's 4 or 3, yeah.
Yeah.
Cute.
You'll see some of the early mornings too, and that's Nick and I and Anthony coming through early in the morning and doing things, and occasionally deliveries, things like that. So you see some outliers. We can explain this.
That is interesting though, yeah, with the 2 AM with that cleaning crew.
That is not me, so it's either the ghost or
Could be the
it's the
ghost.
cleaning crew.
Trying to figure that out. And is that proximity, Natalie? You might have explained that before. What's the sensor? What type of sensor is it?
So we have sensors.
Okay.
And they are getting me a quote, they got delayed because of ALA, but they're getting me a quote to move that over the front door. Currently, it's on the door that goes into the library instead of the front door, so the problem with that is we were missing all of the people who go straight from the front door to the elevator.
Mentioned that before. Got it.
So that will be updated as soon as we can.
Any other notes on heat maps, before we move into financial reports? Okay. So we'll go ahead and move into the June 2025 financial report. So starting on page 21 of the board packet. Before we move into questions, Natalie, is there anything you wanted to note or highlight?
So you will see that we are still very early in the year. And we are still working on, you can see that all of the information is in for the checks that we put in. But the staff salaries had not been entered in by, and revenue had not been entered in fully by Lauterbach and Amen at the time that I pulled this on Thursday. I have talked to them about getting that information in by the Wednesday before the board meeting. So hopefully they will start getting that.
Do we know if we've received any property tax revenue? Because yes, you can see last year we had 320,000 and
We did.
what do we spend? So slightly over 100,000 each month.
Right.
So we're eating into that, you know, the balance of the general fund's gonna fluctuate as it always does, but
We
I'm a little
did.
nervous.
We're fine. We have just over 700,000, I believe, in Illinois fund right now. I'd have to check exactly how much, but we're fine.
So the tax revenue is distributed, on a quarterly basis
That's
to
what
us, or?
same question.
So twice a year, when taxes are collected, we will get that. It usually,
Oh,
I haven't looked at it closely enough for Lake County yet, but in Cook County, it kind of trickles in. They will give it to you as quickly as they can, because if they hold it for too long, they have to pay you interest on your money that they withheld from you. So their goal is to get it to you as quickly as they can.
It's odd for it not to be here yet.
Interesting.
And it is, it's just
Yes,
not up to
hasn't been
date.
input.
Right. For the report.
I just had like a quick question. I know you were obviously just at the conference and there's a couple other, any concerns around professional development, you know, being at 85% budgeted? Are there any other big upcoming PD opportunities that it would impact for
Yeah,
staff?
we have one staff member who is attending ILA, who is presenting there. And that's really the big thing that we have coming up. Everyone is very excited for 2026 ALA. That's
That's
what we're
in Chicago,
focusing on.
right?
It is, yeah. It's-
Any other questions on revenues and expenditures for June? Okay, if we have no other questions, we'll be looking for a trustee to move to approve the June 2025 detailed revenue and expenditure report.
So moved.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Trustee Reedy, thank you, trustee Shaw. Okay, and we'll do a voice vote because this is money. Trustee Shaw,
Aye.
trustee Reedy,
Aye.
trustee Kearney,
Aye.
and I will also vote aye. Okay, moving on to the June 2025 check disbursement report. So these are checks numbered 16582 through 16619. I never received any follow-up from the bank, my signer stuff, so I can check in with them.
From what it sounded like, everything was processed, but they didn't give me the paperwork
Okay.
to finish that. I was kind of surprised. I was watching and saying, sorry, Bonnie, I should have given this to you earlier. Would you ask for something if you don't like them?
I didn't have any questions. I just noted that the fire protection check is going out with this batch, which we talked about last month, so.
The Elm USA is something that you won't see very frequently. It's actually extremely infrequently, but our CD DVD cleaner, we were able to do an upgrade to it, so we don't have to buy a new machine, because the old machine, since we don't use it on a literally daily basis, it has a number of hoses and different implements that get backed up, or things will grow in the hoses instead of the liquid that's supposed to be there. So they were able to retrofit our unit and did that very, very cost effectively. So we don't have to worry so much about any of those items anymore, which is great.
Yeah, what can you get any more for $500, right?
Mhm. A new one is something like $2,000.
I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest. And I'm glad to see that Mission Square is on every month, because that there was an issue at one point in the past with making sure that that was like a more seamless payout process.
A number of staff members have roles instead of just one, which may also be because I'm also enrolled. So it is taken care of, and we are set.
Right, any trustee questions on the check report for June? So numbers 16582 through 16619.
A quick question, is there a overarching agreement with Overdrive Incorporated that provides the ebooks, or from which the library purchases the books?
So we are part of an ebook consortium that all buys them together, which is lovely. We are able to put additional funds into, we pay into the consortium, so we have access and availability of all of those items. And then in addition, we can purchase items that are requested by our readers. So both yes and no, I
Okay,
suppose would be the answer there.
nice to know whenever you can have consortia, I should say, library speak. It's always a good thing.
If there aren't any further questions, we'd be looking for a motion to approve the check disbursement report. I can provide the numbers again if that's
So we're,
okay. Can you say the check numbers?
how do I have to say this?
165.
16582 through 16619. Motion to approve.
I will second. We'll do a voice or a roll call vote because it is money. So trustee Shaul. Aye. Trustee Reidy.
I,
Trustee Kearney.
Aye.
And I will also vote aye. Okay, the check disbursement report for June 2025 has been approved. We are rolling. Our next item on the agenda is a presentation discussion by Jamie, who's on the line right now on the library's financial position, which we had a chance to review his presentation at the committee of the whole meeting on July 1st of this month. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Don't have any slides that he's gonna speak to.
Yeah, I actually do have a couple of slides that I threw together. That's what I was going to ask, is what presentation you're looking at there. Is that from ages ago, right?
Yeah, it was from February 2024. So we looked at that
Perfect.
this month. We have 4 new trustees. So we just
Perfect.
reviewed it as a board.
Great. Because I just updated a couple of those slides to sort of start the discussion. So that's perfect that you had that whole deck there.
Can he email them to you so that we can?
Could you possibly email those over to me? Sorry, I'm not by the microphone. Could you possibly email those over to me and I'll send them to the board?
Sure. Yeah. I'll present them now and then I'll send them right after. Does that sound good?
Thank
Could I
you.
I would really prefer you
prefer that now? Okay. hang on.
now. Yeah, email them now, because I'm really bad at audio processing.
Okay.
Really bad at audio.
Well, I was gonna post it, but not post it, but put it up on the screen. But I'm sending it to you now. Hang on.
Thank you, Jamie.
And Jamie, I'll be riding on my paper version here, so,
Okay.
is there any way you can sort of just say? we can
Share
share?
the screen.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I threw myself at the mercy of the board, and the president stepped in to assist.
AV
That's
support,
leadership. Yeah.
video support.
Right. Never mind, I withdraw my concerns.
Okay, hang on one sec. Okay.
Thank you.
So, I mean, this will look, I've updated some numbers, but it'll look very much like slides that are in there, just a few of them, because we didn't have enough for the deep dive that we did last February. I don't think you wanted that tonight. But I think the point is to try and get that discussion restarted so you can see where you want to go. And that come through, Natalie?
Not yet.
Just give it a minute.
There it is.
Okay, good. And I can, am I able to share? I mean, I'll have it, but.
We don't currently have a projector set up.
Oh,
We are,
so I'm just a voice.
you're a voice,
Exactly.
yes.
Oh, so no wonder.
We can
But it
probably
helped if
turn
I
him
turn
around.
Is that,
Still might be.
is it gonna disrupt the AV flow?
Hello.
Okay, got your email. Do you want help? Let's just put the speakers both on one side. Yeah. Perfect. There we go. That's it. So. Oh, it's. No, it should be fine. They're just looking at Jamie. I emailed out the slides. Thank you.
They could sense our distress.
I know.
For a while,
Right.
it was kind of nice not to be on a Zoom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
See,
Not seeing, well,
not see yourself.
Yeah,
right,
right.
right.
Good. So it looks like people got it.
we're good.
We're set.
We did.
Right. Okay. So I think this page 2, which is updated from that presentation, sort of tells an interesting story. Because when we were looking at your financial history back in 2021 through 2023, we were kind of saying, I think the narrative here is there's a lot of concern about your financial position, which is preventing you from, I don't want to jump to conclude because you guys are the guys that are there and you guys are the people talking about it, but there's been a lot of discussion about how tight you are on finances. And I'm not suggesting that you're not. But one thing that's interesting, if you look at that history, 21, 22, 23, your fund balance, which is sort of your operating cushion, was growing there, right? For a while. It continued in 2024. And so from an and it's growing because you're generating income for $40,000, $73,000 in 23 that repeated in 24. A little bit of, and I'm inferring here, but a little bit of concern over what are we going to do here? We have huge building needs. We can't spend money. Let's tighten the taps down so that we're not spending. something changed, it looks like, in 2025. And so during that time, you're building up a pretty good fund balance. You're only almost getting up to 50%, which I consider a good, strong, healthy um, fund balance, ignoring the fact that you have significant capital improvements that are unmet, right? I mean, we have this $2 million for starters, but that was in your capital report. 2025, there was, it looks like there was some, cost cutting fatigue going on. We added hours back in, and you can see how it's just telling to me, you can see how sensitive these decisions are, that you went from a $74,000 surplus to a $60,000 deficit. Now, I didn't dig deep into those numbers.
What's the source of those numbers? Because that's very surprising to me to see a $60,000 hit on the general fund.
So this was
Estimated for the close of 2025.
Yep. So this was straight off of the 2025 year-end financial report that you should have had. I don't, maybe, I'm guessing Natalie shared it with you, so maybe it just didn't register, or maybe I read it wrong. I don't know. Let's go, let me take a look.
No, I was estimating when I provided everybody with the hours estimate, I mentioned in there that I was expecting us to be $70-ish thousand over budget. And we would have about a $70,000 deficit. I guess it was 60 and not 70, but I was estimating on what it would be.
So you're not surprised?
No, not at
Well,
all.
we know there was a $40,000 deficit based on what the budget was.
That was approved.
Yes.
That was approved. I don't know, given that a lot of the hours didn't get implemented,
Right?
there shouldn't be a $40,000 deficit.
Well, and this was, are we talking about your budget for 26, or are we talking about 25 now?
It would have been 25.
The one that ended in April, April of 2025. It's fine.
So,
I don't think, I think when we get the audit report, we'll have the real numbers.
Yeah.
I'm just a little, taken back to see the deficit, because there were a lot of salary good guys that happened when people left the library, or people went from full-time to part-time, unfilled positions, etc. As you've outlined here, Natalie, that I just can't imagine why there'd be a $60,000 hit.
I'm not sure when the salary adjustments were implemented, but if they were implemented in that time, maybe they weren't taken into account. I don't know. I haven't looked into it that closely, but my expectation is it will be 75,000 once we get the audit report showing the additional items that were booked in May and June that were actually 4 items in the previous fiscal year.
yeah. So you booked, I mean, Natalie, I had assumed that you'd shared this report with the board previously. We can dig into those numbers, but it feels awkward because I have them and they're not in front of you at the same time, so makes it harder. But the 24 numbers on this report were fairly close to the audit, but they might have been adjusted, so it's possible there are adjustments and things like that. But okay. So again, tonight, the point of this discussion is to basically start some of that conversation, so that if this is news to you, you can start looking, start doing some of that deeper dive, right, into what is it exactly that happened last year, what changed, what wasn't according to expectations. And you're not at the point, I mean, the point of putting this up certainly wasn't to call attention to something I didn't know you didn't realize, but to start that, the first thing is that fund balance looks pretty healthy, except for the fact that you have significant capital needs, right? Like if you're just running along, you felt fully like the library had your back, or the village had your back, that they were going to take care of the building and that there was some plan for taking care of it. we could talk about other things like whether your budget is right-sized for the library, whether you're providing the services that the community wants, and if you as a library would want a larger budget to operate on, we could start having those conversations. But the big thing that I think held you up for 21 through 24, where you were generating those surpluses, was a hesitancy to spend money because you didn't know what you're going to do about taking care of the building, right? And so it's possible that you underspend in those years, right? Because you didn't know. And I'm not saying that wasn't prudent. It really was prudent. You underspent in those years because you didn't know what was going to happen to the building. And then the flip side, in 25, we decided, hey, this is getting ridiculous. We can't operate the library. Let's restore some of those costs. And you dug into, I think, if the numbers are accurate, it will prove that say that you dug into some of those fund balances to start restoring some services and things like that. And all of this is really getting at my bottom line, which is you really need to figure out what the financial plan is going to be and figure out if the village is on board with you so that you can start relying on some kind of levy plan that gets you where you need to be. Right? Because otherwise it's this continuous, maybe we need to underspend this year. Maybe we're sick of this and we're going to overspend, and it's just going year by year is not a financial plan. And it's very hard to figure out what to do with the library if you haven't figured out, where you're heading in the long term and getting everyone on the same page. So I didn't intend to get on my soapbox so early in this conversation, but there you go. So let me go. Now I got to find my presentation again because just got all off of it. Okay. So we can flip to, so in case we missed the punchline there, your revenues, what I would have said were low, have built up, although they're reversing a little this year. We have to get to that point of figuring out what's appropriate financial strength. How do we get there? Okay, so if we go on to, just a reminder, page 3, this is how some other libraries around you look. This is a little bit dated information because I haven't updated my IPLAR. I know Natalie has actually looked at this. Other libraries have bigger fund balances, right? You do operate on a narrow fund balance even as a municipal library. The one characteristic that's interesting about municipal libraries is they tend not to carry capital reserves. And that's because, generally speaking, they have an understanding, written or otherwise, or just mutually understood, that the capital needs, that the municipality has their back on the capital needs. They'll take care of that. And this has not happened here. So you not only have relatively low fund balances, but you don't have that assurance from the village that they're going to take care of the library. And indeed, it hasn't been taken care of. If you look more broadly at district libraries, right, most of them, not all of these in this example, have capital reserves, right? They've all put something away to take care of their building, and that's very important, and you lack that. So that's page 4. Page 5, just a reminder, if you look at what you could be spending on the library, among those libraries that we were just looking at, your tax rate's super low. On the other hand, it doesn't produce a lot of money because your EAV is largely residential. So you have some places have a low tax rate, but they generate a ton of money because they have a big industrial tax base, right? And so for their population, they can generate a lot of money from their tax base without people having to pay a whole heck of a lot. Your case, you don't have that, right? So all of your taxes, even though it's a low tax rate, it all comes out of residential, right? It's just people funding it. And that makes it hard. That makes it a little tougher to raise taxes. But at the same time, you do have a really low tax rate. So you could go to the village and say, hey, we really merit for our community a higher tax rate if we had a plan, we could say, if you give us this tax rate, it's going to take care of all our problems. We're going to be able to do all of this. You don't have to worry about taking care of the building because all of a sudden we're having a tax revenue stream that's able to take care of it. So just want to put that in context that, for you in your community, you have much low tax rate generally, but a much lower tax rate than I would anticipate for a residential community.
So Jamie, I
yeah.
got two questions. It's Bonnie.
Yeah.
Good to see you again. The first is, when you say we have a low tax rate, I think that's certainly not the mindset of our community. And I'll just give you my own personal example. I moved from Lake Forest to Lake Bluff. I have a much smaller house. I have a much smaller piece of property, and my taxes went up.
Yeah, so you actually just proved my point. So I should have spoken differently. You have the library tax rate is very low.
Okay.
Okay. But the tax rate in Lake Bluff is very high because the entire school district has to run off residential taxes.
Which Lake
Right.
Forest, the city
What's-
owns buildings. In Lake Forest, the city owns the school buildings, so they're paid by
By the city.
like shopping taxes and, anything that's sold in the village that supports those school buildings, so that's why. And
Got
they're
it.
Sort of a different animal, as opposed to, well, anywhere else, actually. I
Yeah.
think the city of Chicago and Lake Forest are the only ones in the state.
That's interesting. So, but the point is, right, the residents bear the full brunt of all the taxes of running the school district. And that's the biggest tax, that's the biggest taxing body. And so your taxes there in Lake Bluff for the school district are going to be very high because there's no industrial tax base supporting the schools.
So Jamie, my second question is, if you look at the column of blue dots and then like Bluff, the orange dot on this.
Yep. Sorry, I should have explained that. Thank you.
It's okay. Can you give us a list of which communities are the other blue dots?
Yeah, the other blue dots are probably the ones on the previous page or the previous two pages. I can't tell you which are which. We could do a little graph or something like that if you wanted, but Highwood is that lower bottom left one.
Right, Highwood and North Chicago are labeled.
Yeah. And the thing here is the red dot, if you draw an imaginary line through those blue dots, right, you can see that your expenditures, your budget, basically your expenditures for your EAV is pretty low, right? And that's consistent with your tax rate being very low. Some communities would have that red dot being way up because even with a very low tax rate, they have a massive industrial tax base, right? That generates a whole heck a lot more dollars. But in your case, it's all residential. So your EAV, you're not taxing your EAV at those levels that other people are. And so your expenditures are pretty low for your community. But to your point, if you go to the village and say, we want 20 cents more on our tax rate, somebody's going to say, oh, our taxes are already so high. What can we do? And well, your response is, well, that's not our fault. We're doing our part, keeping our taxes low. We just need 20 more cents, and we'll be great.
Jamie, this is Kathleen. I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
I used to be a realtor, so I always pay attention to what goes on with real estate in the community, and all the prices are just significantly up, really since COVID. And so I'm guessing that we would have a couple of years to look at then up till this point did that translate into a lot more money coming from these houses? I mean, they're what is it, triennial, or I can't remember the word, but every 3 years,
You get reassessed.
they get reassessed, and so the whole village shouldn't be reassessed at the same time. But I would guess that by doing nothing really, we should be getting more tax revenue just because the houses are so much higher.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not the way it works.
Dang it, okay.
And we'll see that on the next page. So for a couple of reasons. So what ends up happening is, let's say, just for the math, for the ease of the math, taxes stay flat and home values double, right? All that happens is, well, I'm not saying this quite right, but let me finish. What that would happen is your tax rate would fall in half, right? Taxes are the same, home values double, tax rate's going to fall in half. If the tax rate were what you set things by, conversely, and home prices doubled, then that would be true. Taxes would double. But the truth is in between. What the library does, and I'll explain other districts in a second, but what the library does is they follow the village's example and they go up by 3, 4, 5% per year, 2% per year. And then the tax rate falls out of that combination of home values increasing and the taxes going up a little bit. And so we'll see on the next page, probably what's happened is tax rate has fallen over time. For school districts and other non-village taxing bodies, those entities are only allowed to increase their taxes by inflation plus a little. And there's a formula for that. But they get inflation plus a little. So once again, if your home values double in Lake Bluff, right, what's going to happen is the tax rates are going to fall. So the next question somebody's going to ask me is, well, if no one can increase their taxes by more than inflation, how come my taxes go up 10 and 15% per year? And the answer to that question is twofold. One is a lot of times there's referendums, right, which make big jumps in the taxes. And the other is, which might happen less in Lake Bluff, is that your home value might increase more than the rest of the village. And so you're shouldering more of a share of the total tax burden because you went up faster. And that happens a lot with when there's industrial properties that grow slowly, but the residential is increasing, fast. All of the taxes shift towards residential, and no one complains when their taxes don't go up. So you're only going to hear about this when the taxes go through the roof. So anyway, so if anyone wants to talk more about that, and that was a big part of the discussion when we were talking about in our sort of retreat conversation about tax caps and what happens if you become a district. What's the impact of that? And to that point, the next page, page 6, gives you that history of what the library would, well, let's stay on the right, well, let's stay in the middle for a moment. This is your history of taxation over the past, what is that, 8, 9 years, okay? And the increases that you've had every year. Your increases have ranged from just under 2% to, I guess in the last couple of years, you had 5 and 6% increases. Pretty healthy. So you've been trying to catch up, and the village has been somewhat accommodating for that over the last few years. You've actually increased your taxes slightly more than the village has. If we go back over that time, your tax has gone up 34%. The village has gone up 30%. So you've actually gone up a little more than them. If we look how you would fare under tax caps, right? This inflation plus a little bit thing that independent districts are limited to, you'd actually fare worse. You'd actually be at a 29% increase right now. So you actually have more money now than you would have if you were an independent district, which is another way of also saying, really, the library has always been underfunded, right? This isn't something that evolved, right? You've really never been on a footing that would enable you to run the library the way it should be run. And as a result, you know, it makes that conversation with the village that much more important, that if you guys want to have, you know, if you guys want to have a modern, up-to-date library that's run the way most libraries in your you know, in your area of the state are run, it's a different budget entirely, right? It's not just this budget. It's not that they've been squeezing you and squeezing you. It's that, you know, other libraries are on a different plane. And this is part of the discussion. The village has to say, we want to help you get there, or we'll let you get there, or we don't want to let you get there. You have to go vote a referendum, but we'll let you go as a district. It's all part of that conversation. And you know, you've been talking about this for a couple of years now, you know, so at some point you have to get to that point where you're ready to decide what are we going to do. And that's, does anyone want to talk about this page at all? I didn't put the tax rate on, which was kind of silly, but maybe I can calculate it real quick. If I have that file still open, hang on. Which I don't.
Jamie, this will be the 2024 tax rate.
This will be the the 24 tax rate. So let me just, I can do it. I just have to open the file real quick. So your tax rate, just by
So the
gonna
cumulative.
prove me wrong. Yeah, it's oddly enough, your tax rate has gone up. So your property values have actually gone up over that time period by 21%. So yeah, so you just proved everything I just told you wrong. Yeah, because your EAVs have gone up more slowly than the tax rates. I mean, than the taxes, which is unusual because I would have thought your property values would have gone up much faster than inflation. So that's kind of a surprise to me.
So Jamie, this is Joe. Looking at this slide here with the cumulative section, just so I understand, that's cumulative, that's the percentage change in the levy over that period from 26.
Yeah, it is not annualized or anything like that. It's just a straight division. Yeah. The individual increases year over year are above that in that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie, I've got another question, and it actually goes back to the previous slide, because I am a little confused around the term tax rate, and what that represents,
Yeah.
because as a person who receives that little blue slip or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
a little summary of, this is the total amount you paid in tax, and this is exactly how much went to the high school, this is how much went to the
Yeah.
middle school and elementary school, the park district, the library.
Yeah. So you can
That's
think,
represented as a percentage of my tax bill. I can see that X% went to the high school, right, which was
Yep.
shared, of course.
Yep.
And Y% went to the library. I think
Yep.
that's a much more, that's a much easier thing to communicate to other residents than the tax rate.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I agree. You know, if you're going out and talking to the community, you can easily say, hey, and I don't know what it is for you, but typically it's 2 to 4% is of your tax bill is going to be the library. Right. And so if you tell people, hey, and in your case, it's probably less being so low. Do you happen to, so hang on. So tax rate is, you were exactly right. You kind of said it's a percent of your assessed home value, right? So if the tax rate is 0.2, it's 0.2% of your assessed home value. And your home value is supposed to be assessed at about 1/3 of its market value. And then you get your deductions and things like that off of that. But in theory, your home is assessed at 1/3 of its market value, and then your library tax would be about 0.2% of that assessed value, or 0.16, 0.18%, whatever the tax rate is. Okay, but as a percentage of your total tax bill, it's generally like 2%, 3%. I don't have a, do you happen to know what your aggregate tax rate is?
No.
Probably not, right? Yeah, it would be an odd thing to know. Conditions of rates and extensions, let's just see. Okay,
Trying to look up my own tax bill and see.
yeah, so I'm looking, let me see if I can find. Lake Bluff. Do you know what township you're in?
We're in Shields.
Oh, but, I don't know how to decipher this, Shields. Well, the Lake County tax rates look to be about $10 or 10% by and large. If we take the average, I'm not finding Shields Township, but by and large, well, here they're lower.
I've got the thing up now. Let me just look at Lake Bluff. It's funny. I got College of Lake County, County of Lake, Board Observe, Park District, School District, High School, North Shore Water, Township, Village Fire, Village. For the rates, and I'm not seeing the library.
Yeah, but you're looking for, yeah, because the library is part of the village. We want for your whole tax code. And the problem is I'm not seeing the tax codes. I need a little bit more information. I need a key for the tax codes. And I don't have it. Here, we could do this. What's your elementary school district?
District 65, Lake Bluff.
So if I could find, and I don't know how much time you want to spend on this, but
I don't know how much this matters, but one of the big things recent election was that the Shields Township assessor was being like
Heavy-handed.
that they weren't assessing on a schedule, that there were many homes that had not been assessed on the rotating basis with which they would complain. So there was the write-in candidate,
Yeah.
all of that. So I don't know if that would then play in, let's say, in the future to a shift, but, and not something we could necessarily predict, but could be maybe part of this issue with property value or property home prices going up and be not.
and what's your high school district while we're at it?
115, and it's the Lake Forest High School District.
Yeah. Okay. So it looks like, actually, take it back. So it looks like your tax rates by and large are lower. They're about 665. Any I'm finding any combination of school district 65 and 115. I think that's what I'm looking at. I can't really tell. But for all of those those pairs, the tax rates, here's a couple that are higher, but they seem to be around $650, $7. So $650 a year 18 equals 0.18 divided by 6.5. So you're, what I say, you're 3% of the tax bill, 2.7% of the tax bill.
Mhm.
That rings true. I brought my tax bill into a finance committee meeting, I think, last year to kind of just take a look at it and think about how, how you've presented some of this comparative data to us, Jamie, and how we message it to the community and the village. So I just brought my tax bill in as an example.
Yeah, 2 sounds right, because we also had a community member write in saying, I think they said if 6% of my taxes are going to the library, and there was like a very understandable misconception about
Yes.
what the library took from the village, that portion of the tax bill.
Okay.
Where we had this discussion, I think, but if there is that misconception with the community. And Jamie, in your last presentation, you also put together like a few things, like the cost of a large pizza with all the toppings per household per year, putting it in terms that help people understand it is gonna be important moving forward, and maybe even for talking to the village.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of like the last page, right? Is, if we could operate the library as it's currently configured, what would that look like? Just the operations. And then what do we need in addition to that to bring the building up to current code? Never mind just taking care of the stuff. And to maintain the building, that's in addition. What do these proper numbers look like just as a base case? And then additional staffing to do the hours properly, additional services and improvements to make that library building as functional as it could be, given given the space that it provides. You have a whole host of other issues, like what about the history museum? What about the asbestos? What about, any number of things. But fundamentally, I think come at these questions and answer them sort of one at a time and decide, what do you want to do? And who's going to carry the ball, over to the village? And how are you going to start having those discussions so that you can get to a resolution? Because you have been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of like a chicken or the egg, I think, with the village situation, right? We've got the village is saying, come to us with a financial plan. We are unable to make a financial plan until we know what the village might be willing to commit or approve or put up for taxation hearing in terms of levy, like if they're gonna cap it, because they could. And then we also need things like an annual maintenance plan and the finalized facility assessments with goalposts. So like we do have sort of this, where do we start? And if we make assumptions on what the village is willing to do when we make that plan, then we could be setting ourselves up for failure if that doesn't pan out either.
Yeah, and I guess you're way more sensitive to the local politics than I would be, obviously. From my perspective, I would say forget about do it both ways. Forget it. One of the scenarios is, what do we need just bare minimum to maintain? And here's, if we don't have this, basically we're just not operating a library that can function in any kind of effective way. We're just paying a bunch of people to keep the doors open, and do the best they can. So that's not really a good scenario. So what's the base case now? What's the minimum we need? What's the dream look like? And don't worry about what the village will or won't give you until they say no. Start with the big picture and say, this is our vision for the library. This is what we think it needs. And maybe they'll bite, and maybe they'll say, hey, what about this vision for the library? We did this in Berwyn, by the way. And we walked in with a 50% increase plan and a 25% increase plan. And they're like, well, we like the 25% increase plan.
Yeah, and Jamie, that's pretty much what, I think what, at least the mindset of the finance committee had been, which was, we look at what do we do to address the immediate building needs, asbestos removal.
Yep.
ADA, then, like you said, the other end of the goalpost or the spectrum, what does like a total revamp, the library leaps into the 21st century and provides, meeting space and self-checkout and, replacing all the original windows, or, and then there's something in the middle, which is like a glow up, maybe, I don't know, but I think, I think the village has been, throughout last year, pretty consistent around, look, tell us what you need. If it's something big, we're probably going to go to referendum to see if the community wants it. And, I think the village may consider a capital fund infusion in part, but I don't think it's going to be sufficient for us to avoid a bond or referendum to increase the tax rate. Based on the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing system report, plus the accessibility and the price tag just for those things.
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't see how there's
Several
a,
$million.
Yeah, just a tax levy situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I just think, more in terms of like, what else do we need to get those numbers? And part of it was like the facility plan, the strategic facility plan had to be put on hold. And Natalie's good point that we didn't even have an annual maintenance plan cost, as a part of that. So what do we need to do to be able to get those goalposts to find that in between? And then how long do we think it'll take to get all that info?
I just wanted to be clear, particularly for the newer board members, this isn't a library asks village gives it.
Yeah, no,
That's not it.
no,
That's
it's build
not
a
how we
case and
function.
understanding.
And
Yeah.
then it's the community referendum. It could
Yeah.
be, if we do issue a bond, the village actually backs the bond. We can't back the bond ourselves. So the village is somewhat on the hook for it.
We're not having.
Just one thing to bear in mind, which is that the village doesn't have to, right? They just don't want, they're a home rule village, right? They can go out, they can issue bonds without referendum. It may be their preference, right, to go out to the community and say, hey, this seems awful big for our community, let's ask them, right? But it's a voluntary thing. And that's fine. This is the sort of the thing that's in the back of everybody's mind here is, what the actual community wants, right? And that might be driving the village a little bit that, hey, we don't want to give you $4 million and then find out that the community's mad that we did it, and that's okay. That's a discussion, right?
And then I
But-
think the key learning for me anyway, going through this issue last year and being advised and educated by you, Jamie, was then you also have to have things teed up with elections.
Yeah. And we just had a big referendum. That was a big part of it, was the high school referendum going.
High school referendum,
And
yeah.
forest preserves, and
yeah.
trying to tack on a third felt like we might be the straw that breaks the camel's back, even if it's tiny in comparison to the other.
But Jamie makes a good point. I mean, our wagon is hitched to a home rule community, which has a lot of levers that it can pull. It's just a question of internal political will. It may not have a lot of visibility immediately with the constituency either. So that's another angle that shouldn't be lost on the board, I would think. And to that end, Jamie, related to the statement that you made earlier on this, I'm not sure what slide I'm looking at the paper version, the municipal library expenditures and fund balance slide. You said something interesting. You said, and I don't know if you've got anecdotes or data to back this up, but if you did, I'd love to hear it, that there's an understanding these other municipalities will cover capital needs, but that's not happening at Lake Bluff. Are there models out there with these other municipal libraries? To that end, where there's even.
Sure, I mean, I'd have to research like lots of them, but you know, Waukegan issued bonds for the library. Uh, Berwyn backed him up when they came to him, but I'm forgetting somebody. Brookfield issued bonds for the library. Lots of municipalities, I'm saying lots, and I know it's lots, but I having trouble coming up with specific ones. But I know it's lots have issued bonds for their libraries. LaGrange has a beautiful library. You know, through bonds issued by the village. I don't know why but there are. I mean, there's plenty of examples.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure there's more because I'm looking at all these. Deerfield's got to be home rule. I know Highwood is, Highland Park is, we are, Lake Forest is home rule, or are they? They might not be. They're 20,000 people. They may not have gotten it automatically. They would have had to vote it in after the Illinois Constitution, right? That's a good question. I could see Lake Forest go either way with that politically. North Chicago's home rule. Waukegan certainly is home rule. It's home
Yeah.
rule.
Lake Forest is home rule, yeah.
I was thinking I felt like the whole North Shore was home.
There could be Glencoe. The progressive communities generally go home rule, right? Not progressive politically, just progressive in good city government.
Right.
Which sometimes lines.
Because there's more control.
Yeah, right, that's right.
Control, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, it might be worth. I was hoping you had the magic bullet, Jamie, because some of us are gonna go meet with the village later this week, so I thought that could be an interesting thing to discuss, but it's worth taking a look at, I think, to see if there are models in our backyard here. Because the capital thing will kill you, it'll kill you, right? In terms of some of these, I mean, like the sprinkler systems, I saw that pop up.
That was
Recently.
1,000.
Yeah, and there's no grant covering that, right? That's a big ticket item on a like quarterly or monthly basis, so. If some of those things, like you said, the windows, things like that,
Some of our HVAC systems are already past their useful life.
yeah, and that's
The
deferred
newest
maintenance.
HVAC is 20 years old, so it's
Newest.
pretty much new.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so
pretty
it's
much-
only a
That's
matter
it in
of.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
we talked about how it's just, it's a
Which
ticking
one's gonna
timer
happen
here. Yeah,
first?
something's gonna happen.
yeah,
And the village is aware of this. I think
Yes.
that was in the past 18 months, like so much of the communication has been like, we've gotta let you know realistically where things stand. I think, and to Jamie's point, like what's next is like we've started those conversations and then how we come to them with like, okay, in these scenarios, it looks like this levy plus this capital infusion, it looks like this levy, but like, and having those lined up to present, that feels like the next thing we need to do to provide like a concrete idea of what. And we have had stated to us that they have cash in reserve, and we have in our IGA that we may make a request of them for a capital infusion. So if you're looking like in writing, I mean, they don't have to approve it, of course.
Yeah.
But we do have that in our intergovernmental agreement with the village, so I think it's just like, how do we nail those down? And it feels like in order to nail those down, we are missing some pieces around.
Strategic plan.
Right,
Yes.
and we can't do the strategic plan without the
That
facilities plan, the annual maintenance, but like all the other things.
I meet
too.
with another company tomorrow to get quotes on a facilities plan, a full facilities plan, not just mechanicals.
yes.
So that usually, because they generally have to slot us in, that will usually take a few months to complete.
Yeah.
If we decide to go forward with that. And then I have a person that I've worked with in the past who does strategic planning, who is able and willing to do our strategic planning. I've already talked to him. We've already slotted us for this fall, winter. So we'll be working on that. We're trying to get this planned out and lined up so that we have all of those pieces to be able to
Yeah.
give to the village.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think if we can even just tell them like, here's now,
Yeah.
because we gave them a timeline pre,
January.
turnover. Well, yeah, because it was before our director turnover, and then we informed them like, we're pausing this, so to be able to say like, here's what we're looking at for the runway, but we wanna be able to also be strategic about our levy ask in October. And we know that a strategic plan will not be ready by October, so what does this one look like? And then thinking about what the next one looks like, and that was a little bit what we did this year, because we had a 6% and 20% scenario for levy this year increase. And we went with 6% because we knew we wouldn't have those other pieces done in time. So I think there's like these two
Yeah.
scenarios.
Parallel.
Yeah.
I just a quick point on kind of the levy. Again, to accelerate the newer folks down the learning curve. When I had heard a lot, well, there's a pizza cap, the village, and hence, this is what I was told. The village and hence the library have to abide by the pizza cap, which is like a CPI, blah, blah, blah. Then at some point, Allie and I realized, or maybe Renee dug it out of a file somewhere, I don't know, the library is exempt from the pizza cap.
Yes. It's in the IGA.
Yeah, and
We put it in there so that
yeah.
future boards
See, that was me, yeah.
would know it.
Yeah.
So, just also for you, Natalie, knowing that you're working on
Yeah.
budget already. What I believe, the village did for the current year, where we increased by 6 and they increased by less, is the blend was below the PTEL. So they didn't have to have a truth and taxation hearing for themselves for the joint funding for the village and the library.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so essentially what we're going to need is, we're going to need a levy ask and possibly a capital ask scenario for this fall, for October. As well as the longer view in terms of like that big, what Jamie's saying, like the, pie in the sky. Like we talked about it in the facility sense, if you like knocked the building down and built it exactly how you wanted it, knowing that it's gonna be somewhere
Yeah,
in between those two.
Like the building across the street where they just knocked it down.
Not the rooftop.
Yeah. Apparently that's the safe.
I was wondering if that
I
was.
figured that's what
Yeah,
that was.
Jamie stopped in, she was telling me, it was really interesting.
At first, I couldn't figure out what, and then it suddenly occurred to me,
Yes.
what would be the hardest thing to take down? Safe.
If you go around and if you walk down the street where the single-story apartments are and the former bank is on your right, you can actually see the dials and the handle and
Oh, there's
everything
something
on the
there.
safe.
Really? For a while.
Did we check in there? Did we check?
Yeah, I entered my middle school locker number to see if it would work.
Alright.
Okay, so in terms of like the next steps and knowing, obviously, like Jamie said, we've been talking about it for a long time, and so what do we do now? Like, are we modeling?
So we definitely need that facilities plan.
Right.
So we know what needs to be done. That's not going to necessarily include upgrades. That
Right.
is how to
Put
take
us
care of
right.
the facility, right?
Yes.
How to take care of the facility we have.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
right.
Deferred maintenance.
Deferred maintenance. We have a number of drawings and estimates by Engberg Anderson that we can use, and I know some of those were the pie in the sky, right? That you guys, okay-ish,
I don't
maybe.
think we got there.
I mean,
Okay.
there were some drawings done 5 years ago that built down to the west,
Right,
that. Again, those preceded me, but I eventually did see them at one point, and then, there were also some drawings that say, in the event the museum should ever terminate the lease, how could we utilize that space
Right.
to support the community needs? So there's also a set of drawings from Edward Anderson for that, and some estimates that at this point, thanks to construction costs, labor and stuff.
oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, 15%.
And where we left off with the strategic facilities plan from Engberg Anderson that was happening through last year. Is we had hit milestone 1 of 3. Is that what the group you're talking to would then be in lieu of those final 2 milestones?
Yes, they would pick up essentially Engberg completed so we can have them do that. I was talking to them and I can ask them to do other things as well, or at least to give us quotes on other things. I was talking to them specifically about the facilities plan and also about rebuilding after asbestos removal. But I can talk to them about that as well.
But are we contractually obligated with Engberg Anderson?
We are not. I talked to them about that.
Okay, that was my other
No.
concern. Okay. So that's information we absolutely need, and the other piece is gonna be the moving forward on the hours in terms of staffing. And obviously building usage, but more so staffing. That will help us inform.
Yeah. And my recollection is that the 20% budget that put forward brought back evening hours and Sunday hours.
But it wouldn't do anything facilities wise, that was just, yeah.
No.
So it sounds like lots of planning and putting together ideas.
But all good
We can
stuff.
work on this.
Okay.
Are the bids for, is it like a 25-year, facilities?
They're usually about 15.
15 is good.
Some of them go out farther, but you're usually
Yeah.
encouraged to get a new one done either 10 or 15 years,
Yeah.
depending on which company, just because something changes.
Yeah, and a building like this, someone might look sideways at you. If you say, oh, this will take us 30 years out. Oh, really? You know, doesn't make much sense to be budgeting things that far out, something like this. Although 30 years from now, it could be a historic building. It will be a historic building. It kind of already is,
Yeah.
right? 1975.
You'd be surprised how much of the village is now considered
Yeah.
historic.
Yeah,
Because I think the museum or whoever had determined any house that 50 years or older.
yeah,
That's it. There's a majority of that housing stock.
yeah. I believe.
Yeah.
Well, we got a good plan for Thursday.
Okay. So in terms of our next session, Jamie is going to listen to this too. And now that we're within 10 minutes of our kind of slotted end time for this. Do we want to identify timing for these numbers to be ready if we're thinking about an October draft budget to Bettina? So we
So
have to,
ideally September, so there's time for review.
right. So we're gonna need this information, pretty much all information by August. For this coming years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking the strategic plan.
No, like in terms of
Yeah.
helping determine like the levy percentage and possible capital
Yeah.
request
Mhm.
for just this coming year. And it would be nice to have, I think, a general percentage / next step for the following year, once the strategic plan is complete.
Natalie, last year when we had an interim director for the budget, the final submission of the budget, et cetera. I asked Bettina to send me a step by step, how should this best go between the library and the village? Because the interim director really had no history. I had no history.
Right.
And so I will find that and send that to you.
Sounds great. I was talking to Bettina. She said that she'd love to meet with me in October.
Yeah.
To start getting those figured out.
Because there will be the year-on-year increase, but then there's also the EAV itself goes up,
Right.
which means that there's as it's represented as whether it's the tax rate or the percentage of your tax bill. There's 3 different ways you can represent the year-over-year increase. And in my opinion, kind of as the EAV goes up,
that in a way should be free money. It's not the best way to explain it, for the library. Do you know what I mean? If you're.
The guaranteed increase,
Not,
is what you're
I
saying.
think so, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not how it works for the village either. No. Okay.
It's really Byzantine. I can say that out loud, right? The whole process. I still don't understand it, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Because how David and I had calculated and then how Bettina kind of presented it was a little off, and I think it was because the change in EAV. Because we had assumed, well, we're just working from this year's budget to next year's.
that's all you must do, because
Yeah.
we don't have that EAV. Bettina will get that EAV increase, but we don't necessarily get it.
Mhm.
I don't know if she passes that along to us. The
We
documentation
then
or not.
adjusted that, had to adjust what our final numbers were.
Right, which is,
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
fine.
yeah.
But I don't know if she passes along the actual EAV as a district library at North Riverside. We got a letter, and I know the village will get one here from the county that gives you your EAV. This is your year's EAV, this is what you need to use to calculate everything.
Okay.
But I don't think that we will receive one because we're not a taxing entity.
You should ask for a copy.
We can do that.
Educate, or educate. Oh, I know. Question for you, Jamie. Is PTEL calculated off of the new EAV or off of the prior year's tax dollars?
No, it's, yes, so the formula for it essentially, it's complicated, but it boils down to inflation plus your tax rate on new property. So stuff that it didn't exist. Now, the way it actually works is you calculate a limiting rate, which is the new EAV. Just short answer to your question, it's the new EAV. So it's the prior year's tax base, tax extension times 1 plus inflation. And you divide that by the new EAV excluding new property, and that gives you your tax rate. And then to figure out the total of tax extension, you multiply that tax rate by the total new EAV.
You drop that in an email to Natalie, because again, I don't audio process well, and I don't take notes very quickly either.
It's empty square.
It's essentially, yeah, I will send that. You know, I have a page that's a simplified page that basically gets you to the exact result. The formula is complicated, and that's why it's so confusing, and I don't blame you for not following it. But the short answer to your question is it's based off of the new EAV. You come up with a tax rate, and that's the tax rate for the district, and it's, you know, I don't know. I'm just repeating myself. I'm not probably helping.
But that's fine. And I asked for it because I think we should expect the village to once again want to operate within PTEL.
Yes.
For the village plus
Mhm.
library tax collection in the next year.
Yeah, and they want to do, it's my understanding they want to do that. They are not required to do it because they're home rule, right? It's just, I don't know if it's a promise they made to taxpayers when they went home rule or what, right? But this is self-imposed.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, they passed a resolution in 2005 about the PTEL. Adhering to PTEL.
What did Lake Bluff go home rule? That would be interesting. Go back in the Tribune archive. I subscribe to the old archive. the Tribune.
Yeah, I'm trying to think it, I wanted to say maybe like 15 years ago.
15, that's
I
all?
think it'd have to be longer, right?
Well, I lived here for 21.
You remember it happening?
Yeah,
Interesting.
so maybe it's more than 15, but it's not really more than 20.
Okay.
We weren't the first.
Yeah, because there was a big wave of them in 1970.
No, it wasn't that. It was
Okay.
while I lived here.
No, I think this, yeah, it says this is a PTEL and home rule. Is what it's
It
listed
came in
as.
at 2005. That would have been
2005.
around what you're talking about. So it was in some way premised, although legally speaking, I don't think that's the case, but that doesn't mean politically you're not gonna wanna stick with that. To Jamie's point. Interesting. That's a late home rule, although there was some of them happening, those are the heady times leading up to 2008
Mhm.
with, property and.
Yeah, and I
Development.
feel like my memory is correct. We were one of several that kind of did it at the same
In the area.
time. So it must have been kind of a
Yeah,
hot topic or something.
interesting. That's good. Learn something new every day.
Okay. So we have just 2 minutes left in our time with Jamie tonight. Are there any other last questions? I think we have at least a general timeline for getting those concrete numbers.
Yeah,
And some information gathering to do.
Yeah.
Jamie, thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate it.
Nope, that's my pleasure. And, if I can help you with those scenarios, help you put them together, help you with presentation, that's, what I'm here for. So,
Okay, excellent.
okay.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you. I will talk to you soon.
bye.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Should we flip it on? Staring at each other. I guess.
Oh, you're closer, yeah.
Okay,
That's great.
Natalie, are there any next steps you want us to note?
So I will talk to the companies about getting quotes on a full facilities assessment. And have those for review of the committee of the whole ideally, but possibly at the board meeting in August, one or the other. I will go through and have been working on updating the benchmarking salary survey for 2025 and I'll have estimates for 2026, but I don't know what the increase would actually be. Those are increased by CPI. So I can do an estimate on that, so you can see what numbers for each category would be. That'll give us some more data there. And we're gonna talk.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, at 8:30 on the dot, we don't have, our next item on the agenda is the Secretary's Audit Committee report. We don't have Brian here tonight, so I'm guessing we need to bump this to August.
He did complete everything and sent it to me, so I can go through everything for you, if you'd like.
Would we be able to still vote on, did he have his recommendation in there?
He does.
Oh, great, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he sent a spreadsheet, he reviewed, every minute, he actually went a little bit farther than he needed to, he went into, April of 2024. He only needed to go to May 1st. So we are currently missing 3 minutes. Which I have not been able to find and nobody's been able to provide so far, so we're gonna work on finding out if these meetings were possibly canceled, or if, we can figure out what the minutes were based on what was discussed at the next meeting.
Do you have the dates?
5/29/24, it's Community Engagement Committee. 11/17/24, which is listed as a special meeting. But again, I don't know if that one was canceled, so there's those two. There was one in April, but that's neither here nor there, so it's not part of this. He also noted that 9/3/24 was a finance committee meeting. We have those minutes, but the minutes do not in attendance. They do not note that Director Grassi was there, but then it references her throughout, saying that she was. I thought that it was, I read through them again just to make sure that I thought that it was maybe something she had provided to the committee and they were just referencing and saying she provided it, but no, it says that she actually gave comments. So he recommended that it be edited to show that she was in attendance.
Do you wanna send them to me? I might,
The finance committee?
no, I might be able to look at it and say, okay, this is what was discussed at that meeting, yes.
Oh, no, we have those minutes.
You have the minutes, it's just not clear whether Director
she was
Grassi was present the full
Yeah.
time or not.
It doesn't list her as in attendance, it only lists the board members that were there. and she's not listed, so he wanted to see if we could edit that to
And you said 11/17/24.
11/17.
It's a
Or
Sunday.
11/7.
Oh, 11. That was a Sunday. No.
The dash is way too close to that 7.
Let's see. An agenda for,
Natalie, Renee had given notice, I believe, prior to September 3rd. So it's possible the finance committee met without her and that she provided documents to review. And it's possible, because I think her last day might have been just after the September board meeting, like the Friday after the September board meeting. September 2024.
See if I can pull it up here for you just.
So you were at that meeting, you think?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Blur.
I know, yeah.
That was a while ago.
It was, well, it was finance, it was building grounds, it was HR,
Yeah.
I
plus the regular monthly board meetings.
can confirm that there was a special meeting for 11/7/24. I was absent and requested a secretary pro tempore to be
Okay.
appointed. I just forwarded you the email chain, which I believe you were also absent for because Janie was listed as the person facilitating the meeting in an email from David.
Yeah, and chances are, would have been out of the
Jenny.
country.
Yeah, I think you weren't there, so I think it would have to be probably Jenny.
Who may have taken the minutes for that,
Yes,
Janie or Jenny.
yeah, most likely.
Okay, so it's very unclear in the technology or the finance committee meetings. I just pulled them up. And it says that Director Grossi provided a timeline and important dates for consideration. But then later it says Director Grossi encouraged prioritization of X, Y, and Z. And Director Grossi will provide 3 scenarios, etc. So I can't tell for sure if she was there or if the committee was saying, we're going to ask her to do these things.
Can I just look over?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So with those 3 missing minutes.
I can't tell.
All right, these are not my minutes that I announced my name spelled wrong.
And then, okay, we also need to change Bonnie's name.
It's start.
She was in the whole time.
You think she was?
I do, I do, unless we went into executive session in case the person who took these notes. I noted at such and such a time, we moved into executive session. She was there the whole time.
I didn't.
Thank you for letting me look at it, so I could, you know.
Okay, so then, I go back to, Brian had suggested that we edit those to reflect that she was in attendance.
Okay, so that takes care of September 3rd finance meeting. That's,
Okay, so I'm gonna put a note on.
I feel confident. I feel very
Do you want me to
confident.
ask Jenny if she has the minutes for 11/7/24?
If you can, that would be lovely.
Yeah.
Everything else was in order though?
Mhm.
So with the exception of those 3 minutes, were there any other findings in his?
So he had a few, which were things that I could clear up. So the Human Resources Committee from 110 and 18 were listed as human resources, but the minutes said special meeting. So I just updated the website to be special meeting instead of human resources.
Yeah.
So the 10/21 human resources meeting. Didn't mention if there was a library staff person there, and it referred multiple times to Jenny is gonna do X, Y, and Z, so I think Brian thought Jenny might be a staff person,
Oh, no.
but it was Jenny. So I didn't see any need for that to change. He noted the finance committee meeting minutes from 7/18 and 6/20 were not there. I found the 7/18 and I can find confirmation that the 6/20 was canceled. So I updated the website on that and I posted the 7/18. So that only left the 11/7 and the 5/29, and then editing the 9/3. He did a great spreadsheet. It was fantastic.
Great.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian, for watching.
Yeah. So in terms of the audit,
So is that required by statute then? Is that why we're doing it?
Every year, you're supposed to do this actually before the IPLAR is submitted. As part of the IPLAR, you go through, you review the
Okay.
minutes, make sure they're all there, they're correct,
Okay,
and that's it. Essentially, you just sign off on it and it's done. But this year, we were trying to play catch up, we're still
Got it.
trying to play catch up with our minutes and get everything set.
and remind me what IPLAR stands for again,
Illinois Public Library Annual Report.
and that's provided by statute. That's required by the Secretary of State.
Yes.
Who
It
administers
has to
that.
be completed within 2 or 3 months of the end of your fiscal year.
And then
So-
then each trustee has to, is this signature page also required, or that's just?
You
our
can do
internal
any
practice?
type of signature type thing you want. This is essentially the one that I used at North Riverside and I changed the heading.
so
What I
this just
did-
was testifying that this has
Right.
occurred, so saying Brian has done this work
Right,
and
and
provided.
it's done.
Yeah.
We have made the motion to correct the minutes that need to be corrected and acknowledge the missing minutes that are missing.
Yeah.
So, this says this is to testify that we have examined the secretary's minutes and other records for the past year and find that they are in order and have no errors or discrepancies other than those noted for the fiscal year 24-25. Noted discrepancies, the following minutes are missing, which is the 11/7/24 special board meeting, the 5/29/24 community engagement committee, and the following minutes should be edited, the 9/3/24 finance committee to include Director Grassi in attendance.
Okay.
So then we would just need a motion, as long as that all sounds acceptable and makes sense.
How does that
Yes.
outcome kind of compare to the other audits you've done at other libraries? Like, is it common across, I don't know, someone did a total, I think maybe it was you, Natalie, like in your first month, we had 83 meetings. When you look at all the board meetings,
Yes,
all
that's-
special meetings, all the committee meetings, it was, or 107.
It
I
was a
don't know.
lot. It was definitely.
Yeah.
I am honestly really surprised that we found all of the missing minutes except 2. That's phenomenal. There were a lot of them that were not posted.
Yeah.
So that is absolutely phenomenal. The fact that he only tagged one item as needing to be updated. Remind me to remember to change your name, sorry. There. Is fantastic. And I don't think, we will figure out what happened to the 2 missing minutes and get them updated.
I mean, it's possible community engagement was scheduled
And
And
had an agenda
Right.
and a quorum didn't show up.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very, very possible.
Yeah.
And I was able to pull all the committees I was on, the cancellation notices, and just
Mhm.
forward them as confirmation, but
Which-
I did not sit on that committee.
Yeah.
No, that's something that I'm gonna try to look through other minutes and see if I can pinpoint it never being mentioned. Because generally, if
In a
it's
committee
never
report,
mentioned,
yeah.
then my assumption is it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So my assumption is most likely that didn't happen. But right now, we're just operating on we don't have it at the moment.
I wonder if, not to split hairs, I mean, I like what you put together here and I like the work that Brian has done. But rather than testify or certify or whatever we want to say there, that we, or the signatory has personally examined all the minutes, which wouldn't be true. Maybe say like we have examined a review that was compiled by one of the trustees or something like that and find that whatever you want to say that, then I think I'd feel more comfortable And it would be truthful then. Right now, I can't say I examined all those minutes because I did.
So generally, the people who would sign this, and that's why I'm not necessarily asking you to sign right now, generally, they would be the two people that you had appointed. So they would be the actual. people
Oh, okay.
that
So you're not
reviewed it.
asking for us.
Right, right.
Okay.
But I was just wanted to make sure that we went through all of this to make sure you understood it. And then it can be on the next agenda it would just be before football at that point.
Yeah.
Because with any luck, Courtney and Brian would both be able to be here and they'd be able to sign off. But
So maybe we could do two of them. Brian and Courtney could sign stating that they reviewed the minutes and other records, found it to be in order, and then just to strengthen it, each individual trustee could then sign the other version that says we've reviewed the report.
we can do that.
And that way it's kind of belt and suspenders for the board.
I can put that on the bottom. We can have it all on one page.
Sure, yeah. I'll leave it to your creative mind.
Okay,
That
so we
sounds
would be,
The appropriate.
Wow.
we would be voting to move it to the August. board meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Table it.
Okay,
I don't think we have to vote to table, do we?
You just have to make a motion.
Yeah.
And vote, yeah.
I move to table the is it certification.
Yep.
Annual secretary.
Of the annual secretary's report to the August board meeting.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Now I feel bad. It's another action item for next.
Yeah, but Brian's not here to,
It's true.
yeah.
Hasn't been here. He
The
could
main
really
guy.
help get through.
Yeah.
Yes,
auditor
and also-
himself.
It also gets the chance to thank them in person.
That's true. It's good.
And yeah, and thank you, Natalie, for teeing up all the work the team to lead up.
Oh my God.
This actually works much better because with any luck, if we can find the 11/7, I just remove that and get that posted. And if I can confirm the 5/29
In the
is,
meantime, yeah.
right, it was canceled, I can remove that. And then I will make the updates to the 9/3. You'll still have to motion to approve the updates to the 9/3. But I can make all of those updates, get that set up.
Okay, I emailed Jenny about 10 minutes ago to see if she has it.
Fantastic, thank you.
They'll update it.
Jenny.
Keep refreshing it.
November 7 of 2024.
It was Dieters and Dieters.
Todd.
Diners.
I always
You're good.
second guess. Dieters and Todd doing an update on the library director search. I have an email with a skeleton notes template saying I won't be present. David forwarding it, CCing me to Janie, saying, Janie, can you please appoint a secretary in Ally's place? Meaning you were also not there.
Yeah, and I have a note that David was out of the office on that day.
Yes, so he was asking Janie to do it, which means Jenny was leading the Dieters and Todd search and likely she would have been there at least and could. And Matt and Bill were not eager note takers for. Yeah. Usually Jenny would do it, so. Okay.
Right.
All right, next item on the agenda is revisiting the library hours that we discussed in the committee of the whole from pilot to regular hours. And then we have a supplemental sheet here that was not in the packet, and I'm gonna let Natalie go over that before we commence discussion.
Okay, so very quick review, and I know it's gonna take time to go through this because there's a lot of information there. Bonnie had mentioned at the committee of the whole that she had some information on what was discussed and what was approved and talked about by the board. And I didn't have that. Honestly, I can't find it anywhere. So thank you. Sure. Huge.
Yeah, I know the minutes for the meetings, because I took the minutes for those meetings,
Mhm.
summarized the approvals. Again, it was at the
Right.
finance director level because nothing was going beyond what the board had already approved.
Mhm. No, the detail on this was extremely helpful. So I talked with, Bonnie had pointed out that the funding sources, the overall goal was to increase hours in total by 44 and desk hours specifically by 26 or 29, sorry. 29.
So,
maybe I can provide the first part and then you can, here's what actually happened.
Yes.
Right, so the thing that starts with the results. Right? And there were a series of meetings during which Renee, the previous permanent full-time director, made a series of different proposals to increase hours for certain roles. One of the very first ones was, a facilities manager, because we got this mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and other reports to say, gosh, your building really needs some TLC, as well as just general cleaning, snow plowing, etc. That, there were weeks where either Renee or someone on her management team would spend 10 hours on building issues. I myself spent 5 hours in the building one day when the building was closed with one of the managers because we were trying to find a gas leak with the gas company. So, there were certain things that, it's standard for libraries to have facilities people to help maintain the cleanliness, the proper functioning, receiving furniture, whatever. So that was one of the first things. And then what's interesting is, as Natalie kind of put together the analysis of what actually happened, there were often delays in when the board approved something and it was actually implemented. Like the facilities manager was approved months before it was actually into place, that we hired someone part-time just for the facilities. So when Natalie put together the kind of, I did here's got approved, and Natalie did here's what actually got implemented, I wasn't surprised if there were delays or gaps. Anyway, the result of a series of discussions that Renee had about how to take both salary favorability and payments expected from the village, how to implement that into providing additional staffing here at the library, resulted in approvals for desk coverage to increase by 29 hours per week. There were 2 additional people who were going to be trained to be person in charge. That's, you're the buck stops about anything that happens in the building when you're the person in charge. The cataloging librarian projects were going to be accelerated. The cataloging library projects are what allowed us to significantly weed out unused books and magazines and music tapes and audio tapes and video games, and resulted in like the nice little facelift of more seating, more space, better visual lines, etc. And then lastly, the building maintenance and repair responsibilities for the director, because if a toilet got plugged, the library director handled it. Somebody threw up on the carpeting in the kids' room, a librarian handled it. All right, so then this is just a summary again of a series of different meetings that took place where Renee identified what's the role, what is the proposal, and how many of those hours were going to be dedicated toward the desk. Because desk coverage, if you've got 4 desks staffed throughout your operating hours, that's a lot of total hours, that you have from your staff team to function with those desks. So it's kind of like the summaries at the top, and this is all the detail underneath. I'm not going to go role by role or whatever, unless you guys really would like to know. Again, kind of the thinking was, this was June, July, we were moving toward a review of the pilot hours, and anything that Renee brought forward that was going to increase desk hours, we're like, yes, we definitely want to increase desk hours because we'd like to bring Sunday hours back to the community. And Renee also stated an interest in continuing to reduce the number of desk hours that the management team worked. Renee herself did some desk hours when she was here.
because that's how stretched we were. And again, we were open like 58 hours a week to start, Renee started. That's how stretched we were for desk coverage.
So I took what Bonnie had sent over to me and put it into funding versus hours. So the funding was replacing the adult services and technology manager who left with the technology manager who was paid less, and that opened up additional funding to go towards these positions for these additional hours. The adult services librarian moving from a full-time position to a part-time position. The one-time catch-up payment from the village, which was about 85,000, it was 84.
So that wasn't actually considered. It was the electricity and the year, the original $14,000 that got missed because we went
water repayment
water. Right,
and
it was
then
utilities.
$14,000 IGA.
Yeah.
And contribution.
It's the year we were in negotiations, never got paid.
Yes.
So then by the time the deal was done,
Different
2 years should have been paid. I don't know if 2 years were actually paid.
Yeah, they were.
Okay, good.
Do you know how much that ended up being?
The,
So it was 14,000 for the IGA and then the water.
The water.
Okay,
And then
I thought it was a PPRT that was making them that amount.
There was also some savings, Natalie, when Renee left. Interim director came in part-time
Right.
and received no medical benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So there were also
So you don't have.
savings expected there as well.
yeah, there's the $3,000 for additional utility expenses, which is the water back payments.
Okay, so 17,000.
Yeah, and 14 for the exterior maintenance.
Got it. And then the one time from the general fund of 40,000. So all together with the increases that had been talked about, that Bonnie has on the back, and she has a much more detail than I have on the front. I just tried to summarize them and make it very short. In bold, you'll see the amount of hours that were added and decreased depending on the position. But when they were working on the fiscal year 26 budget, the one that we are working on currently, there were a number of additional decreases that were made. An adult services librarian position wasn't filled. That actually happened apparently a few months earlier. That person left. The substitute librarian position wasn't filled. One of the current staff members decreased hours, and we have another position that decreased hours as well. So that ended up with a total of all of those things, the net change was 12 and a half hours. What was originally planned for and talked about in the section that has all the details is an addition of 44 hours, with 29 of those hours being on the desk. So we are short 31 and a half hours. If we did that at looking at an average and ideal salary and benefits, that would cost an additional $57,488 to add it.
Natalie, a small number of our full-time employees take medical benefit. So if desk hours increase, I don't think it should be burdened by medical and other benefits.
No. You're looking, I'm sorry, benefits for that I have IMRF because that increases depending on how many hours people are working, FICA, Medicare and Social Security. That's what it went into that number. It doesn't have medical or 457 or any of those things. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Can you say that number again?
57,488.
And that's the time, that's the cost for,
A year of adding the additional 31 and a half hours that were talked about in this total 44-hour increase.
but the total number of hours needed to cover Sunday is 18.
Right. But part of this increase was the getting the managers off the desk and making sure that we had time for the projects, et cetera.
So it was never fully funded. In other words, that 57,488 figure wasn't allocated elsewhere
No,
because it was never fully, the model was never fully funded is what I'm hearing, right? from the village? Or you never pursued it fully.
No, so the costs, there were cost savings from the first two bullets under funding that would appear in the annual budget.
Yes. But in terms of like the one-time catch-up payment, 85 grand,
Yep,
that never
One
happened.
time.
Oh, it did.
No, it
Oh,
did. Oh, no, it did.
It just wasn't part of the consideration for using that funding for this
For
particular,
an ongoing.
right? Cause that's what we're saying here.
Oh, no, it was. The funding for the changes, so
so the PPRT.
this is an edit to what I sent Natalie. She had added like, she thought it was the 85 or whatever.
Mhm.
The source of funding for the changes listed here was the salary favorability from a full-time librarian going to part-time, from a person who was the adult services / technology manager leaving the library, regrading to technology only, so there was substantial cost savings from that. Right?
Right.
And then the $40,000 approval from the board
Mhm.
for
For the
hiring a
service.
facilities manager.
Yeah.
That didn't happen until January and was eventually funded effective May of 2025.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
understand the favorabilities. I think it was the question, sorry.
Sorry, the 40,000 was only designated for the maintenance, the facilities maintenance person?
It was originally approved by the board for the facilities maintenance role for a full year. The person wasn't hired until
I don't.
January. And then the annual salary for a facilities person was put in the 2025 budget.
Okay, I don't have hours for the facilities person added into this hours calculation for the total net change of hours.
Nor do I.
Okay.
Because it wasn't about the desk,
Right, no, that makes sense, yeah.
that's why.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
it wasn't about the desk, it wasn't,
Okay, so-
you know.
I can remove the one-time payment of 40,000 from funding because that only reflects the facilities maintenance.
Yeah. Again, the thinking was, we need this building to get ready. Reduce the collection size, et cetera, for asbestos removal. For the ADA. Modifications that were funded through grants, et cetera. How do we get it ready? We're gonna reduce the collection size.
I don't, for some reason, I'm recalling with the original building manager, we were looking at like 10 hours a week. It was not a full-time, the original time, yeah.
And it's
So-
currently not full
So
time to
the,
the best.
but then the $40,000 would be well beyond that 10 hours a week.
We have 20.
I think it was 20 hours a week that Renee proposed.
Was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think it was 10, because I believe the person we hired. Or, during David's interim directorship, works Monday through Thursday, 5 hours a day. 7 to 12, is that right, Natalie?
His hours vary depending on the day and things like that. Sometimes he's in on Saturdays, etc. Just depends on the needs.
But is it a 20 hours a week?
Between 20 and 25.
Yeah, it was, I have in minutes from 2023, August of 2023. There was authorization to grant approval for direct the director to use $40,000 from the fund reserve balance to cover maintenance, building and grounds for necessary facility repairs and overspend by $10,000 for contracted services for a building's project manager.
So that's the project manager, that's the 10-hour-a-week position.
No, I think
That
that,
position remained unfilled.
and that was, at the time, someone external that was coming in and we were paying them.
Okay, so that was just for the project. but-
Yeah.
It was.
That was like to oversee, okay, we need masonry work done.
Right.
We need, this already happened, in Renee's first month or two. The hot water heater wasn't working, like, nobody
That happens.
reported that it wasn't working, so, then Renee chased down 3 quotes for hot water heater and scheduled it and. Those kinds of things that, clearly the library director does if he or she must, but is not necessarily the best use of their skills and talent and experience.
But the reason I asked the question about the 57 figure being fully funded or not is I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I mean, there's a lot of detail here, which is great, and a lot of it predates me, so I'm never gonna fully catch up on it, but I was trying to lead towards, all right, well, if that 57,000 figure was fully funded, and the hours are not being used that were funded by that,
Mhm.
based on all these factors, is that money still there? And I think the answer is no.
I would agree, the
And that-
answer is no.
And then the
I would
question
agree,
is
the
like,
answer is,
it's being used elsewhere, so it's not coming back. We don't have this this isn't been budgeted.
I don't think it was ever actually budgeted from what I can tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there were also, Natalie, I think that my, archive work or whatever in putting this together might also be helpful in looking at the budget model for salaries, because I think David was working with a file, and then when you joined us at the end of that fiscal year, you got a file or something from Bettina,
I did.
and the math wasn't mathing.
Yeah.
So, I can't say what exactly was in what budget model.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll fix it.
but
It'll be
yeah,
fine.
we'll fix it.
The
I mean, I think,
57
and I think the good news is we didn't run super hot
Mm-mm.
on salaries. At the end of the fiscal year prior, this year, and we're missing a month. We have May, June. We only have 1 month of the actual salaries paid so far,
Yeah.
so,
So bringing this back, so we're getting,
yeah.
close to time, to the hours piece. We have on here is like an action to move potentially from pilot to regular hours. The one thing that's missing here, I think, was we had a pretty robust discussion around Sunday hour scenarios, which Natalie had provided, obviously, multiple scenarios for us to consider. We also are missing 3 voices on the board, and so we do have the option to push this for a vote to August to ensure that we have a more comprehensive board participation. But in terms of tying this now to what that means for implications on our operating hours is, I think, where we need to move.
I know adding Sunday hours is a priority. I'd love to add evening hours as well, but we didn't add the 44 hours that were authorized here. I don't see how we can possibly add an additional day at this point, especially since there's no way that I can incorporate another $57,000 into our budget.
But just to be clear, you don't need 31.5 hours to cover Saturday, unless you're talking about both Saturday and evening.
Sunday.
Thank you, Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
we can't adjust the budget to include the $20,000, 23,000, I think that I had estimated, and that was without the IMRF FICA Medicare numbers. I'm not sure exactly how much that'll be, but that'll increase that 23. I don't have that budget right now. We passed a budget that was already 40,000 over for the year. In order to get a balanced budget for next fiscal year that I've been working on, I'm currently at $15,000 over budget, and that doesn't include adding any additional hours at this point. That only includes trying to stabilize things and put actually very few increases anywhere.
So let me say this, I think as a standalone issue, moving from pilot to regular hours, I'm ready to support that.
The name change.
Correct, correct. I think Natalie, you know, the work that you did to say, well, this is what actually got implemented was super, super helpful because I've been knowing
Mhm.
qualitatively, we made all these approvals. Why don't we have more resources?
Right.
Like, why don't we have, I don't know, why don't we have those hours ready to go, for Sunday? I think the Sunday conversation should continue.
Mhm.
Because I know it's the number one thing we heard from the community through surveys, comment cards,
Emails today.
focus groups. What'd you say?
Emails today.
Emails today. So I think what's difficult for me as a library trustee is this. We've substantially increased our budget. We've substantially reduced our hours. And I feel like at some point we've got to start expanding when we can sustain the expansion.
Would it be very confusing if we had 2 Sundays a month, like the first and third?
That would be very,
Just very confusing, like you wouldn't do it.
no.
It's so either one or the other.
Undoubtedly, at that point, you have people who will show up every other week and get very annoyed because why aren't you open? I thought you were open,
Yeah.
etc. Then we get tons of feedback that's not positive.
Just trying to think of whether it was like a happy medium.
Yeah. Well,
So-
the problem is if you're saying, let's strip out the pilot language. And then you go ahead and add the Sundays in 6 months' time. It'll be also confusing, people, well, maybe not. Maybe
But I
it's
think
like-
they'll be very welcome.
Yes, yeah, well received.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It's different, right? It's like adding something
Mhm.
versus like finally like getting back to normalcy, which is maybe what the new point is right now, right? Removing the pilot piece to it. I mean, I would support that too, just as a general matter, I mean, and I think we don't need a lot of discourse on that from people that couldn't make it tonight.
Yeah, there's a bit language shift. Yeah.
Really what the board motioned 6 months ago, I think, was we will review and
Mhm.
revisit the possibility of modifying our operating hours in July.
Mhm.
Again, kind of teeing up. Can we do it? Can we
Mhm.
bring Sundays back post Labor Day? So the name change is really just semantics.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think I can tell you where I am mentally, and Natalie's done a great job pulling together, you know, files and feedback from the
sorry.
team and everything.
I'm sorry they don't reflect what I was hoping would reflect, like, hey, we have those extra 44 hours.
Yeah, me too. You know, I think it's pretty clear that there would need to be changes in the way the building is staffed today to make Sundays happen. And you know, that's Natalie's job, right? To make those recommendations to us and,
Yeah.
you know, figure out the operations and
well, and I mean,
I
obviously. This is not the first time this has happened, so I don't want to be Pollyanna-ish about it, but I do feel like there's at least a modicum of additional directions that this board can go, especially having heard the conversations tonight. You know, starting with this meeting that's gonna happen later this week, that could help us address some of these structural, frankly, deficiencies in a way that maybe hasn't been fully done historically, right? So if and when we were able to be successful with that, Sundays could fall into line with it. And I don't think it's that too heavy of a lift. I really don't.
I don't think so either. I mean, it could be an ask we make with the next year's budget.
Mhm.
Just like
Yeah.
we put the facilities manager role in.
Yeah.
With last year's budget.
You get that?
We could look at both the evening hours and the, and the Sunday, put it all in with the ask for next year.
And pretty
I don't know.
soon you've got a pretty rosy financial position if you're coupling that with the capital stuff.
Well, the capital stuff, though, I don't think the timing is gonna work out to make the ask for.
This coming, yeah.
If we could get something that wouldn't be. That could be flexible. I agree, to get something solidified, probably not, but. You could get creative with it, it seems to me. I mean, I don't know what that creativity would actually look like, but it's something to. Consider if we can get that report prior to November from the capital
Possibly.
people.
We have an estimated range for the asbestos removal cost. We can work on getting it, so the asbestos removal is only part of it, right? They literally just tear it out. Then we have bare beams, we have bare walls, etc. We have no floor, all of those things. So the second part, which has no choice but go together, is rebuild all of that. And we know the materials cost for that and the labor for that is going to be substantially more expensive. So I have talked to 2 companies so far about quotes on that, but it's really nebulous at the moment. And I needed to know how much money we're getting from the state before looking at, are we going to just prioritize doing the lower level? Because ideally, I'd love to do the whole facility, right? It's a lot cheaper if we do the whole project at once.
You mean the asbestos removal?
Yes, and rebuild. If we do the whole project at once, it's a lot cheaper. The crews are only here once, we're only inconvenienced once, etc., right? But financially, I don't know if that's gonna work. So we have the ranges and ideas for the asbestos removal for the whole facility. We do not have the rebuild numbers for the facility yet.
Do you think we could get the rebuild numbers for the facilities in time for October?
I don't know. At least estimates, probably. Actual quotes, no. I highly doubt it.
But that's all you need. You just need general, reasonable numbers
Yeah.
within the realm. And, you know, in terms of that capital plan, like the 25-year, it would tell us, okay, your HVAC, we strongly recommend, they'd have different gradations in there about when things on a year-to-year basis should be replaced or how that should be budgeted. And if we went hat in hand, it's the wrong term, to the village, said, here's the next 10 years, you know, and if there's an a la carte element to this, we should talk about it, but you know, at least it's something there as opposed to saying like, getting bogged down by, oh, well, the whole thing needs to be done or whatever. Well, maybe not year 1, maybe not year 2. But that's what I'm really, for the record, that's what I'm really excited about. Having heard the limited things I have so far about the fiscal picture is that capital piece, because if we can shore that up, not dissimilar to our wonderful bluffs around Lake Bluff, right, with the waves crashing. That's deferred maintenance, right? You can envision it that way. That's what's kind of been happening, it seems to me, here, right? So if we can get that, if we can stop that from impacting the facility, and then we couple that with a few other pretty strategic things in terms of ongoing operating. And then we get more grants and things like that, which I'm sure Natalie's already well ahead of us on that. All of a sudden, it's kind of a pretty nimble little municipal library, you know? It already is, but you know, even more so, anyway.
Okay,
That was
so,
the limits of my time.
I'm
under the new
gonna get like a horn.
I'm just kidding.
No, I think this is all, good as we head in for a meeting with the village, or if we have sort of general timeline for them, and then we can come back to them in October and say, okay, like you said, here's the timeline, and this is where we start to have the concrete numbers. So I think it all plays into, it, I mean, it's all interconnected. For the purposes of tonight's action item, which is moving from pilot to regular hours, are we interested in making a motion to change the verbiage, having revisited it, or is this a table to August?
So I would propose we table it and relabel the action, because I do think it would be, I do think having a larger quorum, having more of our
Yeah.
trustees here would benefit.
For this particular topic, it is, yes, and we voice voted this topic in the past, even though we don't necessarily have to.
Right.
Because that is important for transparency.
Yes.
Um,
And just to be clear, so after our last committee of the whole, where I said, my reflection is that, we have had trustees vote no on operating hour changes. It wasn't the most recent vote, it was a prior one. That was back to that video. It wasn't the most recent one. The most recent being I looked at
I think
a
that's
September board meeting. Yeah, September 2024. So that would be my motion, is that we table and relabel this action for August.
I would agree, I'd like to have other trustees here as well.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
Table label 9
Second.
C.
No, go
under
for
new
it.
business.
I'll take the second.
Okay.
So that's something I can contribute.
Okay, all in favor of tabling?
I,
Any opposed? Any abstain? The last item of business is library correspondence and any communications. We have one comment card here about the book drop. Yeah,
There's nothing really outstanding there, obviously.
okay, just a note. The book drop is, for cars is too high for Spine First. For this patron, so.
What does it say? Too high for what? For me?
Yeah.
For them.
Yeah, for them,
Yes.
so they can't get the book Spine First, which there's a little note that says like. It's in Spine First.
which is interesting because the walk-up one doesn't have that notation.
You're
Well,
right.
this one was
Spine
newer, the
First.
car one got replaced
Yes,
this past 2 years.
exactly.
Um,
So maybe if the patron does become named, we can advise them that.
It could be reflected as a
yeah, totally. Just making, yeah, the accessibility piece is always important to consider. Okay, as far as I know, there's no closed session needs. So with that, I will move that we adjourn at 9:20 PM.
A second.
You,